Okay, I'm going to give you guys some dating and relationship advice. I feel like doing this video today. Now, I was with a friend yesterday, a really good friend of mine, and we was on a date, and she was telling me about some dates that she's been on that were disastrous, and there's a lot to learn from this. So I want to share it today. And these are a lot of things that I sort of knew, obviously not to do, but some guys don't. And you know, there is some humour in this. So again, I'm not making fun of anyone because I know what it's like to struggle. But sometimes, you know, it's you know, you're only human. You do sort of laugh at things and see the funny side because it is a bit comedic. So anyway, I'm not going to mention names, but she told me that she was on a date with a guy, and she said she liked him. It was going well, and I think it was the second date. And then he started already telling her the names of the children that he wanted to name. Now, bearing in mind they haven't got any children, it's only the second date, and he already started to tell her like the names of he wanted to name the kids. Now, of course, any sane person in their right mind is going to be freaked out. So I said to her, "How did you feel about that? You know, did you laugh?" And she said, "No." She said she felt a bit. She didn't want to upset him. But inside, she's thinking, I've got to get away from this guy. Obviously, she doesn't know him. It's too early. You know, if you go on a second date with someone, a woman, and you already start trying to claim her and make her your wife and telling her the names of your children, man, you're going to freak her out. So that's a big no-no. And I know some of you might laugh in your own head and think, well, that's obvious. But it obviously isn't. Not everybody thinks the same way. So obviously, I would never do that, right? Because I'm just not going to do that. I need to get to know someone. You need time to build trust and to see if you're right with each other. But look, I can kind of understand his point of view, even though I wouldn't do it, and I don't teach that and don't agree with it. Because obviously, you know, he really wants a relationship. He wants children. He really likes her, and you know, it's fear. That's what fear will do if you let it get the better of you. And sometimes some people don't have certain social skills, right? It's not someone's fault. We can always learn. There's certain things I didn't know. And we all make mistakes with dating, men and women do. But yeah, she was telling me that actually she said that she really liked him, and if he hadn't have said that and just took it a little bit more easy, who knows, that could have happened. So yeah, guys, on a first, second date, third date, don't start saying to a woman that you want to have children. And another thing that he said, she told me that another guy said that made me laugh. Again, she was laughing, and she told her mum. He said to her that he doesn't want her to work. Like, he had the whole thing planned out. He was going to take her to another country. She was never going to work again. He was going to go to work. And I said, well, how many dates until we said this? Because at a certain point it might be appropriate. She said the second date. And I was like, you can't be saying that. It's not like, listen, there's always someone for someone, right? That might work for someone, but in most cases, most women are going to be freaked out if you start saying that you want children from them on the second date, and you're going to name the children, or you've got big plans. And I think, again, it comes down to, you know, being too needy, being too desperate. And obviously it can go the other way. I've heard stories of friends and men tell me that they went on a second date and the woman already wanted to have children with them. I've had a couple of experiences myself, not as drastic, but similar, you know, where I was only a couple of dates in and the girl was already saying that, you know, she's in love with me and we're going to plan our future and have children, and it's just too premature. And these things tend, on both sides, not just for men and women, these just push people away. So, you know, part of being honest is having social skills and controlling. Sometimes you have to control these compulsive thoughts and emotions, because it can obviously ruin a relationship. So I wanted to make a point of sharing that, because some of you might make that mistake. And it's quite heartbreaking, especially to think that, you know, a guy's made a great impression and a girl does like him, but it's just too early, right? And I think that's a rule of thumb for any relationship. You need to give it time to get to know each other. Now listen, I can't say when is the exact number date to start proposing these things. It's an organic thing that happens, and it feels right at the right time. And again, that's when it's the right time. No one can say exactly on what date you should start saying these things. But I think it's different if you're on a date and you're both, which I really respect and I like, you're both being honest with each other and you're both saying that you both want children. And if potentially the relationship was to work out, then you both like to do that. That's slightly different, because there's an agreement with two people. But when one person is laying out your whole life and telling you what they want, and the other person is not concurring or agreeing, that's when it can fall into being, that's when women can obviously think that it's creepy, it's too much, it's too controlling, and you can't blame them for that. You know, it's a bit like, I've experienced it myself with fans that can become fanatic, and they love you and they want to meet you, and and it's just it goes too far. You have to draw the line and put your boundaries. But obviously, look, these are extreme things. I know most of you are not going to do this because you've got social skills and stuff, but hopefully anyone who has done that can learn from that. Like I said, you know, maybe for the right person that would work, but in my experience, stuff like that is too heavy, it's too quick, and it comes across clumsy, dysfunctional, and it's going to scare a woman away. And these are things that, you know, my dad taught me from a very young age, and my mum, and just some things are just common sense, but common sense isn't always common. I actually remember I was working in retail for a friend of a friend, and the lady, the manager there, she said that to me once in a nice way. You know, I said, oh, it's common sense. I should have known that. I was hard on her. And she said, no, it's, you know, Jonathan, common sense is not always common with people. So a little bit of wisdom there. So yeah, guys, this is basically trying to explain, you know, take it easy. You know, when you go on a first date, you know, it's great if there's a connection, but I've learned a lot lately about this. I heard a really experienced relationship woman talk about this, and men, and I've learned this. Just because you've got a connection with someone on the first date doesn't mean it's going to work, and it doesn't mean you need to start laying out every single feeling that you've got. It's a bit too premature. So look, I'm big on being honest, but of course with being honest, there is a time when you have to control yourself. You have to have respect. If you just say every feeling you've got, yeah, that's honest, but it's too much. It's too much in one go, and it's inappropriate. It's too quick. So just take it easy, relax a bit, and let it grow into a relationship. I remember the best relationship I had. You know, we dated. The feelings it took. We liked each other. We just took it easy. And after about 6 months to a year, she told me that. It was lovely when she told me that she fell in love with me, and she didn't want me to date other women, right? And I felt the same. It was just perfect. And I said I loved her, and I didn't want to date anybody else, and we became a couple. So I learned a lot from that relationship that was successful, and I've had many that have not been successful. I take something from that, and I teach that to my clients. I try and educate them on these matters, and I never stop learning. I learn from, you know, other men and women who have got life experience and have learnt from getting things wrong and putting it right. But yeah, just a rule of thumb, a good social skill, you know, unless someone asks you, unless a woman said she wanted a date, she was joking, or just said, look, if we was to have a child, what would you call it? That's different, because someone's asking you. But when they're not asking you, it's not for you to start laying out the whole foundation of your future in the first or second date. You don't know each other. You can't know someone in one date. Sometimes you can feel like you can know someone. I've met someone before, and the connection, we just hit it off from the start. There's this almost feeling that we know each other. But as time goes on, you realize there's still a lot you don't know, and it doesn't always work out in the way that you hoped it would, in the way that you thought it would, in the way that you wanted it to. Generally works out when you're not expecting it, when you're just going with the flow, when you're enjoying it, and you know, you see each other. Some of my mum's best advice, I think my mum's better than any relationship coach on YouTube. She'll just say, look, if it feels right, it is right. And don't force it. If you like each other, you go on another date. If you like each other, you go on another date, until it goes into a relationship. You know, but again, I know everyone's values are different. So even though I'm saying this, and I believe it's right, and I believe my friend, she believes it's right, your values might be different. Which is why I, you know, only work with people that have got similar values and understand these things. And my core values of teaching guys how to attract women and build relationships is honesty, respect, social skills, transparency, but obviously honesty within the realms of what is appropriate. You know, you're not going to go on a date and just say to someone, yeah, I just went to the toilet. You know, things like that are not appropriate. Even though it's honest, there's certain things that you just don't talk about because they're not polite. And it's not the right time. Maybe when you get to know someone and you're more comfortable, then you can pretty much speak about anything. So that's the mistake that a lot of men make. They speak about things too early. They lay too much out there, and it comes across wrong. You know, and a lot of times the guys they're not creepy, they're not creeps, but it can come across like that because it's too emotional and it's too quick. and you're making promises, and that's going to make a woman feel trapped, controlled, and most women don't want to feel like that. She wants to feel she has a choice to want to be with you and want to have children with you and start picking names of the children, right? It's going to make a joke, say if, not if I was yeah. If, it was just a joke. I was just saying, if you did have children, what would you name them? I'm just joking. But honestly, this is a true story, guys. I'm not really one for telling stories. I just thought it would lighten the mood today, and you'd learn a lot. I learned a lot from it, because you don't stop learning. I learn a lot. And I said, some of the best lessons I've learned with women in relationships and getting better and building better have not come from men, although lots have. A lot of it has come from dating women and learning from women. And having the courage to be self-reflective and take a look and work on issues and improve them and look at things that are right. But most of it is common sense. So I thought that was, I thought you could take a lot from that, and really, think about how you can. I know this is going off topic, and I'm going to say it. When I listen, I learn things from different people. So when Teddy Atlas, the famous boxing trainer who trained Mike Tyson, he talks a lot about helping young men from difficult backgrounds to control themselves, and how that we all got to learn to control ourselves at times, because if we don't, then we're going to get too emotional and we're going to ruin relationships or opportunities by acting and behaving inappropriately or saying things that could be right but at the wrong time. So that's something to be said about that, about having control. But at the same time, again, you don't want to take things to the extreme and then go on a date and be closed and not be open and vulnerable. Because if you're not going to open up and be vulnerable, then, like it says in the film Good Will Hunting, how will you ever get to know someone if you don't overcome this fear of hurt and abandonment? Because you're just going to be so closed, no one's ever going to get to know you, and you won't get to know yourself or anyone. So there is a balance between being honest, respectful, open, vulnerable, confident, putting it on the line, going for what you want, telling a woman that you like her and you want to be with her. That's brilliant. As opposed to going too far, where you go into that box where it can be weird, it can be creepy, it can be too possessive, too controlling. It ends up being a bit hilarious and funny, because it's so ridiculous to go on a date, on a first, second date, and start saying, what are the names of our children? We're going to go here. It's too early. How do you know that you're going to get to that point? How do you know you're right for each other? So one step at a time, one day at a time, one date at a time. But yeah, there's nothing wrong with having hopes and dreams. We all have that keeps you going, and those dreams and hopes can become true. Anyway, I'm getting a bit cheesy now. It's because I'm from the 80s. But yeah, I hope you guys take a lot from that. And girls, let me know in the box below some of the most ridiculous things that you've heard, maybe mistakes that you've made, right? We've all made mistakes. None of us are perfect. We can learn from them. And I'm not making fun of anyone, guys, right? Because I've had fun made of me. It's just making light of the situation. Sometimes it's good to laugh at yourself in a healthy way, to release the tension and the stress, and then you can be successful, all right? Fearless.